Hey VC, how's it going? Right, okay, hope you had a good Christmas. Yeah, about a week or so ago, I did a brief video just showing my top 5 reissues from 2020. Well, today I want to show my top 5 new releases from the year. Yeah, and with each record, I'll perhaps do a brief sample of a tune from the album afterwards as well, just so you get an idea what I'm talking about. So, all right, see what you think. So first up, and these are in no particular order, this is Tim Burgess and his album I Love the New Sky. So this album must have come out back in February, certainly when the pandemic hit in March. This is an album that I was playing a lot. This was my sort of go-to album at that point. So Tim Burgess, obviously lead singer with the Charlatans, but this album doesn't sound like a Charlatans album. It's got more of a sort of 70s pop vibe. If you think the likes of 10cc, you can hear a lot of 70s Beach Boys in this, certainly with the harmonies. Actually, when I say I listened to this earlier in the year, I was also listening to Holland by the Beach Boys a lot at that point as well, and it's that sort of vibe. Surprisingly, this hasn't featured in too many end of year lists. Obviously, magazines tend to do their top 50, top 100 albums, and I really expected this one to be right up there, but it hasn't been. So, you know, certainly if you get a minute, check this one out and see what you think. I think it's a corker, so great stuff.
The lights were in their eyes, and I'm feeling insecure. I'd like some time to readjust some more. Sunlit vision of a macro sky. In the mirror her affection rise, escalating drama on a moving staircase. They say that you can't win them all. What you get if you're at the mall? They say that you can't win them all. What you get if you're at the mall?
Okay, another album that came out early part of the year is this. This is Rejoice by Tony Allen and Hugh Masekela. Now, I spoke at length about this album at the time, but from what I understand, the majority of the music on the album was recorded probably sort of 7-8 years ago now, sort of 2012, 2013. But the tapes were never released. And then Hugh Masekela passed away, I think 3 or 4 years ago now, at which point Tony Allen went back into the studio and finished off the recording. So he brought in other musicians, so the likes of Joe Armand-Jones from Ezra Collective plays on this record. And so the album was put out early part of this year. Unfortunately, obviously, Tony Allen passed away, I think, middle of 2020. So this is probably the last studio recording for both artists. And it's a real, I mean, it's a real joyous record. It's a real mixture of Afrobeat and South African jazz. Actually, a couple of tracks have had quite a bit of airplay over here in the UK. So the last track on side 1, Never, Lagos, Never Gonna Be the Same. And the last track on side 2, We've Landed. So they've been played on BBC Six Music quite a bit. But yeah, this is definitely one of my favourite albums of the year, and I can't recommend this one enough.
Tony Allen, Hugh Masekela. Check it out. Yeah. 17, 18, 19, bọ̀bọ̀. Iṣẹ́ lórí ló fi ṣeré.
Right, I think my artist of the year has got to be Nat Birchall. I just find it fascinating how he sort of almost effortlessly moves from playing sort of jazz, spiritual jazz, and then the next minute moving on to a more sort of rootsy dub reggae style. Obviously, he's best known as a jazz saxophonist, but I say he's been making these sort of roots reggae records over the last sort of 2 or 3 years. Him and Al Breadwinner, and they sound fantastic. So this album came out early part of the year. This was Tradition Disc in Dub. Then I think sort of May, June time, this album came out, Mysticism of Sound, and this is a real sort of Sun Ra inspired jazz record. And it's fascinating because, I mean, he made it clear that, you know, like most musicians, he makes his living from playing live. Obviously with what's happened in 2020, he hasn't been able to do that, so his hand's really been forced he's got to generate an income, so he's looked at making more records basically. Obviously, he would normally play with a band, but because of the circumstances, he hasn't been able to mix with other musicians. So with this record in particular, he played all of the instruments himself, and it is a gorgeous jazz record. So I spoke about this at length at the time, but fantastic stuff. And more recently, just in the last sort of month or so, he's put this live album out. So this is Exaltation, the Nat Birchall Sextet. It's a recording, I think, from 2 years ago, recorded in Greece with some Greek musicians. But yeah, really nice stuff. I must admit, my preference is for the more sort of roots reggae sound. So I've got to say, of the 4 albums he's put out, this is my favourite. This is Upright Living. Again, this came out sort of middle of the year. And the thing with all of these releases, I think, I know this is getting a bit geeky now, but from a vinyl pressing point of view, I don't think any records that I've heard over the last few years sound as good as the Nat Birchall releases. If you're going to get any, and say if you like that sort of roots reggae sound, this would be my recommendation. So yeah, absolutely gorgeous stuff. If it comes to picking a favourite album from the year, it's going to be between these last 2 records. So first up, this is Róisín Machine by Róisín Murphy. So Róisín Murphy, obviously the vocalist with Moloko. She made all those lovely sort of wonky dance albums with Moloko in the 90s and into the 2000s. And her sort of 3 or 4 solo albums that she's made since then have all had that similar vibe as well. But quite early on in the pandemic and what we've all gone through this year, I sort of realised that most artists were sort of reacting to the situation. The music that was coming out was very downbeat. It was very much a sort of reflection of the way people were feeling. And me personally, I didn't want to hear that. I mean, many of those sort of singer-songwriter albums, those sort of very, very much introspective records, I may well listen to in 5 or 10 years' time and be wondering why I didn't listen to them, when they came out. But that isn't really what I wanted to hear this year. I wanted to hear something more positive, just uplifting stuff, and that's exactly what this is. It's that sort of mix of disco and house music. Great songs, but it's dance music done with, there's fun, it's got style. She has a fantastic voice, and the songs are good. 5 of the 10 songs have come out on 12 inches over the course of the last sort of 12, 18 months, I think. So it's nice that they're all sort of collected together here, together with another 5 songs. This, for me, I say, this is, damn near my album of the year.
Well, it's nice to be wanted, but I want you to and never be frightened. Never had a broken heart, never seen it fall apart. Haven't got a broken dream, not that into crazy scene. Don't know where I get the strength, and I'll go out of my head. I'm not even out of breath, I could go forever, yeah.
Final pick is this is Corner Shop and England is a Garden. And when I first heard this, I felt exactly the same way as I did when I heard every other Corner Shop record, and that is, I just wish they made more music. It's been several years since their last album, and this just makes you want to hear more. It's funny that they do so well what so many other bands attempt to do but just don't succeed at. And that is, that fusion, that sort of ramshackle fusion of different styles. So in here, you've got 60s garage, you've got British psychedelia, you've got bits of dance music, and also, you know, obviously a strong Indian vibe going on as well. Yeah, it's so well done, and it just seems to be done with such ease as well. The songs are strong, the songs are catchy. It's just full of great pop songs. Obviously, they've always been a political band, and this is no different. Obviously, it looks at, you know, it addresses Brexit, which obviously we're going through at the moment in the UK, but also racism. All of their records addresses race. I mean, for example, there's a track on here, Everywhere That Wog Army Roam, which it addresses racism in such a sort of playful way. The melody is almost like a children's nursery rhyme, and it just makes the message even more powerful. It's, you know, fantastic, so well done. And as I say, you know, when it comes to my favourite records of the year, it's either this one or the Róisín Murphy records. So yeah, check them out. Cheers.